I just want to start out this part of the meeting and just say, yes, board members have gotten a lot of emails, and we appreciate those. And a lot of the times they said, well, we see on the agenda for the later meeting, COVID being brought up again, in the masking and things like that, mitigation. Now, the reason that that's on the agenda is because on the 14th, that night of the annual meeting, we as a board did not address the mitigation piece. The only thing we did as a board in that meeting was to get an online class for kids that are out of the loop because of COVID. We want to make sure that was done. So I felt, and I don't know if there's any other board members felt, that we should be able to explain ourselves about that question from Tuesday night. And so that's why it's in minutes of the meeting. You know, and we should explain ourselves. We didn't address the issue, but venue an hour before an annual meeting was not the perfect venue for what we had there. So, but this portion now is for you as community members to talk to us as a board. We can interact with you about absolutely any subject.
Well, not any subject.
Not personnel issues. We can't personal issues. I would like to probably try to do this in a half an hour and not get real long and do a lot of repetition. So for the next meeting, the regular board meeting, there's a place to sign in and the delegation to be heard to speak to us. That will be what I will be going off of in the regular monthly meeting portion of gathering people who want to talk to us. Here, you have separate.
We do, yep, we did
Okay,
ask
then
for several.
I will go with
So we did ask when the people signed in if they wanted to speak during the community forum, okay, and or the delegations we heard. So we do have,
okay.
try to keep things streamlined.
That was one of those. Well, let's start out with Christina Rodriguez.
Okay, so I'm not sure, maybe what I want to say is more, you're having the actual board meeting at 7, correct?
We'll have the actual board meeting when we get done here.
This is more question.
I would like to do somewhere after 6:30, 25 to 7, half an hour for
Okay,
this here.
so.
Would you rather
I
speak
would
in?
rather speak at 6:30.
Okay. And then Amy Anderson?
I'm gonna choose to speak now because I have to leave to go take my son to Scarborough to homecoming. So.
Running out of time.
Yeah. Running out of time.
And remember, this is a portion where you can have dialogue with the board members. You have questions of the board members or the administration. This
Okay.
is your opportunity to do that. Don't, when I get into a regular board meeting, I'm not so nice. So,
Okay.
so let's,
Basically, I want to start out by thanking all of the board members and Ron for everything that you guys have been doing, staying on top of all the COVID mitigations and as of today, keeping it parents' choice. And I do appreciate that. Whatever you're doing, it seems to be working really well. If you look at our numbers, I think they look great. I've said this before, each child is so different, and you can't have a one size fits all as far as masks go. I could go on and on. But with each child being so different, I just continue to ask that you keep it parents' choice, because each parent does know what's best for their specific child. I do want to address something else tonight that happened at the last meeting. I don't know if he's here, but there was a dad who talked about, I believe it was his son, who got bullied for wearing a mask. And I wanted to talk to him after the meeting. I don't know if he's here. Okay. Anyways, I don't think that that should be happening. Did have a little experience of our own with my granddaughter, and the school handled it great. Thank you to Ron. Thank you, teachers. Everything was handled great. But I want to talk to the parents in this room, because there is bullying going on in these schools. And we as parents can't put all the pressure on the teachers to hold these kids accountable, the principals. Yes, they have to talk to them and act on it, but it starts at home. And until we start talking to our kids that there are people have different opinions and viewpoints that we need to respect. They have a friend wearing a mask, respect that friend. They have a friend not wearing a mask, respect that friend. We all know values start in the home. And I really think that we as a community need to maybe have some talks with our kids again. I just foresee this becoming a big problem. Kids have enough that they're getting bullied about, enough issues at school, add masks into it, and it's not gonna be good. So I just hope you all take that to heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
What, overs?
Yes.
I don't know. The person talking earlier.
Oh.
It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't have a different impact.
It said you wanted to speak in community forum. If you want to wait to do it in the delegation, we heard.
Probably asking questions.
That's more open.
I don't have any questions, I just have a looking handout, so I'll take that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Just,
Yeah, so I just have a couple of questions. This is sort of related, but how did the school use the ESSER funds they received? I
Sure.
noticed this was one of the only schools in the Arrowhead district that even got into these
Right.
government funds.
Right now we are developing that plan about how we're going to be utilizing those. We will be presenting that plan not only to the board, but to our community, because part of the requirements for the ESSER grant will be to get community input. So we are earmarking those for, we have to earmark at least 20% to learning loss. So we just got done talking about that a little bit from the student achievement committee meeting. But basically, we're going to be bringing in more interventions and really taking a look at learning loss and taking a look at students as a whole and on both extreme ends and basically our textbook guides.
What strings are attached to that money as far as the departments the district has to follow to get that grant?
So it's federal money. There aren't strings attached to receive the money, there's strings attached to how you spend it at this point. Those strings keep moving, which is making it a little bit difficult to project and say like, okay, we're gonna spend X dollars on this, X dollars on this. Our district, because we were in person all last year for learning, we do qualify for additional funds, and that's still being worked out at the DPI level. So I submitted all of our information, all of our virtual hours and all of our in-person hours. So DPI is still kind of finalizing that right now. And they keep pushing out the deadline. So originally it was like the end of August, and now it's kind of like the end of September. So I'm not 100% sure on the timeline from that aspect of it. So we don't even 100% know what our allocation is.
Sure.
So there's still kind of a lot of
It was
things.
close to $500,000, I think, total. So the two grants total.
Potentially.
Potentially.
That's
We
what
hope
we're
it
hoping.
is.
So was our district just more going for it? Why did the other schools in the area, because everyone was in person last year?
So, well, okay, so part of the grant is based on the Title I formula. So Title I is a poverty measure. So that's why, at the beginning when the state was kind of like, what they were really trying to do is penalize districts that were virtual, because they wanted kids to be in school, just like what we want here. But depending on what the poverty measure was, some of their districts were fully funded straight out the gate. So like your Madison, your Milwaukee, like they that didn't impact them at all because they
Yes,
already
ESER 2 and
qualified.
3 were different.
Yes,
Okay.
One,
because
two,
they qualified under
yeah.
the title formula for their full amount. So there's 174 districts out of the 424 in Wisconsin that qualify for that additional amount. And that additional, when I keep saying that, that's $65 million that's set aside at the state level that is waiting to be distributed based on everyone's hours of instruction. And then there's gotta be other parameters on how they end up distributing that, whether it's, per pupil, that was a big one that was thrown out there. So it's like if you have 6,000 kids versus 200 kids. It varies based on that, but we have ideas, a lot of them are focused around learning loss and just like, how do we get this money? How do we utilize it so that the kids are gonna benefit? That's the goal, that's always the goal, so,
We also can make facility improvements.
yes.
We have great ventilation, we have outstanding ventilation. Some of our, it's a little bit older, and here might be an opportunity for us to grab some one-time dollars.
But as far as you guys are aware, there's nothing tied to masking or
No.
requirements.
No,
No, we are not at
Testing
risk
of any,
for,
of any
no
kind?
testing either. Nope.
Okay, because a lot of the money was in there, if you read it, it's about funding those things for the school districts.
Correct.
Those resources, so there's no
Correct.
plans for Merton School District to use the money that way.
Right, no, we are planning on utilizing, we are looking at this as one-time funds. As in, and it can't be reoccurring because it's not part of our revenue limit, and the state legislators have created their budget for us in regards to that response, to say this can't be continual, and again, we just kind of explained that to us.
Okay. And then as far as the mitigation plan goes, I'm just like the board's opinion, with that mitigation plan, who are we trying to protect?
I think the goal of the mitigation plan was to keep the most number of students in person as possible.
So we're trying to protect the kids?
Trying to keep them in school.
Okay.
Trying to keep
So
them in
why is
school.
this
And
school?
staff,
What's that?
and staff.
And staff, right. Why is the school being considered more dangerous than any other place that we visit these days that do not require a mask, do not require a lot of things that this plan might be talking about?
I can respond to why I put it in there.
Sure.
Again, my goal was to keep kids in school and to keep our staff in school. And when I felt that, when we hit a level where I truly felt, or we truly felt, that there was a school spread, that massive,
To a student,
to student to student, student to student.
So we're trying to protect students.
We're trying to
concerned
keep
that
kids
there's a
in
spread among
school.
students.
Yep, so I tried to, this mitigation plan was if I felt that there was a student to student spread,
Mhm.
not homebound, not connected at all. But if I felt like there was a school-wide breakout in a grade level or in a classroom, in order to keep kids in school, to try to maximize that possible opportunity, again, whether it's 0%, 5%, so I was trying to keep a portion of the kids in school by a temporary masking requirement.
So in your opinion, the best way to keep kids in school is to provide a plan that requires them to be out of school if they test positive for COVID or they're spread in their classroom.
I wanted to try to stop kids from testing positive for COVID.
So what happened in the district that we decided that we had this problem to begin with? Was there an issue? Was there spread?
Right now, we don't. This is, again, it's a mitigation plan that when
But
you
what do we
reach a
mitigate? There's
certain,
no problem. What do we mitigate?
looking to the future, if we had a product. We had also, like last year, we had multiple different learning plans ready to go, whether we went 100% virtual, 50%. This was just a plan for just in case, just like we have a plan for, and pretty soon we're gonna see a teacher resignation. We're formulating that plan, so
Sure.
we are just planning ahead to be prepared to just in case.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with planning. That's a smart thing to do no matter where you are, right? You're a school district, you're
Yeah,
a
that's-
home, right? But to put something out that is so concrete, right, that impacts a child's education, right? I have 3 kids in the district, right? One of my kids could have to go virtual, have to be masked because of what's happening in their classroom, right? And the stats prove out, right? A kid with COVID, right, there's very low risk for them other than just they get sick for a little bit. Right?
Correct, right, and you didn't hear me say that I thought that this was a risk to a deficit to a child's health and safety. Nope, I'm not going to say that, because you're right, the chances of getting extreme illness are very, very small. And that's why this is about keeping kids in school. So if they don't get COVID, they're in school. That's truly what this is about. is trying to keep kids in school. That was my recommendation. So if we
So
fill
why don't we
out
have a mitigation plan for all illnesses?
for what?
All illnesses.
Like
Flu,
RSV,
RSV,
We do, we have, when approximately 20% of the flu, if a class gets 20% of the flu, we respond. We may respond by increased
Where's that plan?
cleaning, is
that just an internal document you guys have? Is that used to
It is
build
a
this?
plan that we use to plan with and in conjunction with Waukesha County. The flu typically we work with Waukesha County.
And so in your history with the district, how many times have we had to?
We've never reached that level because we've done some mitigation measures. As soon as we start to see upticks,
Yeah.
we increase cleaning, we increase other things.
Sure. So I'd like to hear from the board now, kind of their opinion of what Ron was talking about in terms of who are you trying to protect? You're trying to protect the kids, you're trying to protect the teachers, you're trying to protect the general community. Who are we trying to protect by putting in a plan that's going to require kids to potentially wear masks,
At this point, I don't know.
virtual learning?
It's not necessarily a matter of protecting, right? That, I don't know, personally, I don't know if that's the best word. It's more a matter of
It's all
trying
about
to
protection,
keep.
right? That's why we're saying.
Well,
that's
it's just a matter of trying to keep the
protect
most
yourself
number
from-
of kids in class, right? So by whatever means possible, right? So the ideal was there is this illness and it's transmissible among humans, right? So it's more transmissible than normal flu, right? That's.
I'm not sure that's an accurate statement, but.
Well, that's,
Let's go.
there's not gonna be any benefit in like talking about statistics or research or whatever.
All this, this entire situation is about statistics.
Yes.
It's all about statistics, right? I mean, we're talking in the state of Wisconsin.
Okay, so anyway, the idea was to try and keep the most number of kids in school.
Right,
And
so where
so
did
the plan
when did
was-
we have a problem keeping our kids in school in this district?
And I answered that, Justin. I said,
Well,
we have.
we had a plan.
We did, although all of last year, everyone was masked, obviously, but
So why
fine.
doesn't the board just vote in mitigation plan and move on?
That's what we're trying to do today.
That's what we're doing.
We
We're gonna
didn't,
take a
we didn't
vote.
today.
We'll do that, that's why it's in there, but we weren't able to do it on the 14th. And I'll just be point blank with you, on Friday before the 14th, we got the mitigation plan, I think it was that Friday, wasn't it, or earlier in the week. I meet with Ron on Monday morning. Come in on Monday morning, what I say to Ron, I said, you know, I think we should just do what we've been doing. There's too many variables. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, and then the goalposts keep moving all the time. That's what we've been experiencing for the last year and a half. So Ron knew where I was on Monday morning, and I think he had a pretty good read on the rest of the board after that. But we wanted on Tuesday for people to be able to chance to speak. And since we did not share or make a decision on the mitigation thing, that's why I felt we needed it on the agenda tonight, so we can share with our community where we stand on it and whether we want to have something.
And I appreciate that. So my understanding is the board, no one raises it for a vote. It's a debt issue. Right?
But the last board meeting, we ran out of time,
Well,
right? There was a hard cutoff because we had to go.
it wasn't an agenda item specific.
I think technically, at any time during that 55 minutes, any board member could have interrupted the session that we were having with the community and asked for a vote or a discussion, technically speaking.
I think you're right.
I think
That's
we
true.
we could
It
have,
could have been considered.
Is this situation
rude, but
right now?
Yes.
So a motion to have a vote right now?
no, not in this, is just a community workshop format. There's no action scheduled to be taken. So we'll do it in the next portion of the meeting. And
I have a question though.
good question.
Okay, I just wanted to know, do you know what percentage of kids are wearing masks at those schools?
Yeah, actually, Ron and I walked through every single classroom today.
Okay, would you say it's the minority of the people, like minority of?
Intermediate schools, maybe 5%. And primary school, I'd say maximum classroom wearing would be 15%, but the average would be a lot closer
Okay.
to
Some classes
10,
are.
maybe under 10.
10%.
of the population. Some classes are a little higher, some classes are
Right, so
lower.
that evens out.
Okay.
So one last thing, I'm sorry, I'm kind of,
Last
there's
one.
no time limit given this time, so I'm gonna take.
Yeah.
Big mistake. So of the cases we've had of COVID in the district, how many were traced as spread from the school?
Zero.
Of the staff that have gotten COVID at the district, which way, I want to clarify something too. If a staff member gets tested positive for COVID, is that information you share publicly?
It is when the staff member doesn't become identifiable.
Correct. Does that mean I'm not?
Means like if I can publicly share when a teacher, like an
Music
individual,
department,
but if
music
there's,
teacher got,
if we say that, you know, take a group of people that's under 5, say our specialist group at a certain school. And I'm not going to break any type of medical privacy, but again, that's why you see all the dashboards. If it's under 5, possibly there's individuals who are identifiable. So if it's a classroom core teacher who it's very easily, so we can identify there was a staff member, you know, we would say an individual, we wouldn't say a staff member. If we send something out to 5K or insert name, we would say another individual has tested positive. And we'll let other people.
so you and the board believe that that information should only be shared from the person that may have been contracted?
I am not allowed to, we don't share that information.
Okay. So, I mean, is that information that's just maybe the teachers are telling somebody else, and then, 'cause I've had 2 situations now where both my kids were told that their teacher has COVID. That's why they're not at school. So I'm just curious, I mean, somebody told somebody, right? So maybe that's something we should look at mitigating, is what's going on. Who's communicating the information to students, because we talk about children that have to deal with adult problems, right? Kids don't need to know, right? It's none of their business, it's someone's business while you're out at home, right? So that's something I think the district should do to make sure that there's proper protocols being handled, so that people won't have to feel like, because let's face it, there's a little bit of a stigma. If you have COVID, right? People are a little concerned. So that's something we should.
But it's also difficult when an individual, student, staff member, whoever, all of a sudden is absent for a period of days. Again, we do the very best, and that's why we try to give parents the best information they possibly can.
Sure.
And then have them make the decision. But ultimately, I have to try to protect the privacy of it. So if a teacher says, I have COVID, so I'm gone, and again, whether that's to a parent, a student, we would hopefully try not to, but.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that, right? Because in the cases that I'm aware of, I don't think that was how students found out about the situation, so.
We
Can
can
we
see.
get
I'm gonna go to
clarification?
this next.
Yeah.
Can we get clarification kind of on this topic though, about
Okay.
notifying?
Okay, what's the clarification? you need?
Okay, so if my student, an 8th grade student, I got an email, there was a case in the grade. I had asked for clarification if I could be notified if the student was in the same class as my child. I didn't get a follow-up to that, and I'd like to know moving forward what we can expect. If there's someone that is in one of those classes that he's with, don't I have the right to know as a parent who that is? So I can be watching for signs and I can be a responsible parent.
Unfortunately, no. As much, because again, I need to try to, again, we're in a tough spot here where people want to know
It doesn't need
information.
to say though, Ron, which class that,
But in 8th grade, it could be any number, any class, because we have so many classes. And that's why we just say, hey, your child may have been exposed in the grade level. Again, we're really trying to protect identity, yet try to give parents enough information so that they can make decisions on.
the
But
class is 95 people though,
Yep.
you know, of 8th grade, so.
Yep.
I'm just trying to do the responsible thing. I mean, if it could be narrowed down, I think it would be helpful. Just something.
we're just not quite sure about what other, to say it happened in science class. Again, then we would notify the science class, the math class, the literacy class, and then it's ultimately, it's very difficult that way. Then we start to identify who that is. Again, we're really trying to communicate, and this is something that has been talked about, not only from our administrative team, but from other school districts in the county about, hey, how are you doing this?
Sure.
You'll get an Arrowhead, for those of you that have parents in the Arrowhead, that you get the email. I got 4 of them last week. And you gotta ask kids.
Is that different for up there than, or down there than here?
Here we identify a classroom, okay, classroom.
So at the primary, you identify
Classroom age grade level.
As
Everybody's,
opposed to
okay,
you identify the entire grade.
because there's so much interaction that occurs in Will's science class and then it goes to, because a different group of kids, we don't have a cohort of kids that move together.
Okay, thank you.
That's truly why.
I'll let you speak to that, Alyssa, if she wants a big can.
So it sounds like 85 to 95% of kids are choosing not to wear masks, right? So then the question would be, why force masks? Is it that you believe they work? And if they really do work, then the person wearing them, they would work for that person. So, you know what I'm saying? Why would there be a concern to force someone to wear a mask?
Again, going back to the original, this recommendation is for me. Again, obviously the board, you just heard Dean say no. But my recommendation came from wanting kids to stay in school. For a short term, I felt that if we felt that there was in a third grade classroom, that we could have a probable understanding that there was some school-wide spread in that classroom. But I feel that putting a mask on gives a child a better chance to stay in school. Could be anywhere between 0 and 100, right? Could be 0% effective, but if it's 10% effective, that means if I can have one more child stay in school and not get COVID, again, just to stay in school, that to me was worth me putting my recommendation down forward. Is because when we hit a certain level, when I felt there was school-wide spread, that a mask could help. Maybe, maybe not. But if it was a maybe, it was a mitigation measure that I felt that I could not recommend.
And I appreciate where Ron's coming from. I personally am never gonna support universal mask. So just to clarify that for everybody.
But I don't think Ron's plan did either.
No, it's temporary.
No,
It's very
temporary.
temporary. Go in, and go out. Go in and go out.
Alyssa,
I don't have anything planned, but I want to say I've emailed you guys so many times, I'm gonna continue to do that. So, now you can put a face to it, but
okay,
anyway, as you know, I don't support any measures whatsoever, not even temporary, sorry, Ron.
Nope.
Because, you know, you give them an inch, they want a mile. So, you said we've heard temporary before. You can't tell me that, and I'm not here to argue about the efficacy of masks, but when a room of second graders is sitting there chewing on that, you can't tell me that that's preventing the spread of disease at all. So, we're gonna take our chances. If you guys say you want masks, even temporarily, my son's not gonna be wearing one.
And then they're not in school.
Well, then that's what it is.
Well, no, but that's like the way out, are you doing it to keep people in
I
school,
don't,
but then
I
you're
don't
gonna lose
support it.
people in
If you
school?
look around the room, and I respect everybody chooses what they choose. If you wanna wear a mask, great. But I think that most people in this district do not support universal masking, even temporarily. So.
Nick said he maybe want to talk.
I'm good, thank you. You're good, thank you.
Okay, and on the last page. I need your help. Oh,
Oh, that could be me. Last page.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I was just gonna ask, as you made your recommendation, which I respect anyone's recommendation, but what different sources of information do you draw from to collect your information? So certainly there's the CDC, there's the WHO, there's the NIH. And from the beginning of this fiasco of a pandemic, they have contradicted themselves from day one all the way through today. Now we have what I think very credible, peer-reviewed doctors from around the globe that have challenged each other to one, to prove the effectiveness of a mask, to even look at the effectiveness of the PCR test to prove if someone has COVID or not, as well as the effect of someone who is asymptomatic but tests positive. So all of that coming into a play, a lot of the now very current peer-reviewed doctors actually disprove majority of what the quote unquote recommendations from these government agencies are. So I guess my question really is, what multiple sources of information do you use to create your recommendation? Part one. Part two is, have you seen the report again from 6 various lab tested results from masks collected from school students who have worn them throughout the course of the school day? Because there's some very good data in that, and I can get you the website if you haven't seen where it's all summarized. But it will show everything that is in those masks that have been breathed in and out from the child. And majority of what's in there is bacteria, other fungus, for lack of a better word, starting to grow. The one thing that is not in there is any signs of virus. So those are my 2-part questions.
Okay, so I try to gather, again, I'm not familiar with the study you just referenced from a standpoint of is what gets collected in masks. I think I would agree with that. I do agree that last year we had our best year ever from a standpoint of sickness, cold, flu, everything. Our kids were very healthy last year, very healthy. But again, other data sources, I get stuff from the CDC, I get stuff from a lot of our board members here too as well. We get stuff from different superintendents in the county, whether it be Stanford studies, whether it be Children's Hospital studies. We get all sorts of different data points. This recommendation came from me, again, knowing that it's from depending on 0 to 100. And that's why in the extreme, and what I would say my nuclear option was a short-term mask requirement. When we truly felt that we had a concern enough that it might help. And that's really where, from multiple data sources, from 0 to 100, if it helps one child, that's where my recommendation really came from that standpoint.
I can respect that, but I also would think that that extreme measure of forcing masks may be temporary, or it may extend, could actually be more detrimental to the child than leaving it alone and implementing some other.
Correct, and what I guess my counter to that was last year we had a really great cold and flu season. So
the entire country though. You look at it as school.
Right.
No. I think this is where I take a look at a micro level. And that's why what's happening in the South, what's happening in our community, that's why the mitigation measures truly came from what's happening in our schools. So that's where that recommendation came from, was multiple data sources. Obviously, data sources that are shared from many community members, many people in here share with me information too as well.
The majority of those come from the same root of the source though, if they all originate and just spun off of CDC or NIH or the WHO, they're all essentially, you're just seeking the same advice from the same source.
There's enough people in here that give me other information and that I can find as well.
Okay.
I would just like to suggest that last year the school purchased aerosol sprayers. The school's never been disinfected like it's ever been compared to last year.
We've actually had,
we've had those for a long time. We didn't have to purchase any of them actually. We purchased a couple additional ones just so we could speed up the process.
Yeah, they were purchased last year.
Yeah, we purchased some additional ones, some Titan sprayers and things like that, but we had the Clorox 360. We had a lot of that stuff too.
And I'd also say too, there were multiple layers of mitigation. It wasn't just the masks in school, right? People were not interacting, they were keeping their kids home, there were no sports, they were preventing them from being in the community. And what you're seeing this year is a rise in like RSV over 400%, right? That's immune suppression. So you're going to get it at some point, and now you're going to get it in bigger waves. So there is that to be considered. You're preventing it very temporarily. The kids need germs. Their immune system's like a muscle. They have to be exposed to things. For this group too, I just want to say I put together, I saw a great analysis, and they compared the schools' COVID mitigation from Florida, New York, and Massachusetts with graphs, a lot of data. It'd be really interesting for you to read.
thank you. We're always short on these.
Maybe after tomorrow.
We do the rest of
I have a question for Rob.
Sure.
Yes, that's fine. We're gonna wrap up here really quick.
Your proposal a week or so ago.
Yep.
Sorry, how many kids did you have down that have to be positive in a class before you want them to be
Again,
maxed?
it was right around, it was 3, but again, that is with an asterisk of a tremendous amount of grade, because if we, if, say for instance, if 3 kids were sitting around and we say, you know, nobody in the house has gotten it, and if we really felt strongly that, when we went back and talked to the classroom teacher and said, hey, any connection with these 3? Yeah, these 3 hang out with each other all the time and are inseparable. So that would be a response. That
What if you had 3 kids and then, 10 days later, you have another 3 kids, and then 10 days later, another 3 kids, so that you would be okay with just continuing the mask?
Again, that's where we would have to have some further discussions on it, but yes, if we, again, ultimately, when it gets down to like you were saying about, about kids getting sick, and eventually, if everybody gets COVID, then they get the 90-day reprieve, so, but, yes, in theory, it was in and out, so for instance, in that case, if we went into masks for 10 days, and we saw a 1-week reprieve, then we would go back, we'd come out, and then we would possibly go back in as well. So that's the way the plan would work if we purely felt like there was a strong based concern for school aspect.
Last one.
I'd like to ask a question on testing and the message we're sending families about testing. So I picked up my daughter after close exposure in our home with a positive COVID test. I was told multiple times by a staff member, don't get her tested for COVID. If she has less than 3 symptoms, even if your whole family has COVID, she can come back to school. To me, that's a really big mixed message. I mean, I wouldn't tell anyone that has a whole family of influenza. They can send their, and it's one of the head staff members that you meet when you first come into the door. So that's the message that we're going to be giving families, especially for other kids that are concerned about the spread of COVID. I mean, you don't want someone coming back that has their entire family who has influenza, because they need to be tested to make sure they don't have influenza before they come back to school. The same thing goes for COVID.
Yeah, that's the benefit of parent choice, right? A parent can choose to send their kid to school sick if they want to.
But I don't feel like we should be.
I don't know, I don't want to be endorsing that. No,
Right,
no,
I don't
wanna
think
be
staff
endorsing
members
that.
should be telling family members, you should not get your child tested.
That's not a school policy, correct?
No, that's not a school. You and I can connect and to make sure, because that shouldn't be happening, that message. We do have kind of like our COVID, there's some symptom checkers on there and things like that says, hey, if you have one of these big ones, we recommend you stay home. Again, it's all parent choice. We have been at both schools, if we have kids who are slobbering and coughing, we call the parents, and the parents have been very, very receptive to, hey, we get it. Thank you very much for sending them home too. So our support staff and one of our head honchos, when you walk in, yeah, I'm really sorry that happened. We should connect to make sure that messaging is clear.
Okay. Likewise, we're not supporting our staff disseminating medical advice. If
No.
it's not DL or nurse.
We don't diagnose anything.
Okay, thank you for this portion of the meeting.
I just hope the board votes to move on from this mitigation stuff and stop, focus on the education. So,
Agreed.
and remember, the school board is very important, have the right people on the school board, these types of issues don't, distract you from.
Okay, we are going to call meeting order. And we start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this meeting has been posted in all the normal posting places. And we have an agenda in front of you, board members. Is that adequate?
Motion to approve the agenda.
We have motion and a second. Any questions?
Alex, can we move the agenda item,
New business.
the new business item of the action for the mitigation plan? Can you move that up the list, like just to talk, after delegates to be sure.
After delegates, we were.
That's right.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Why don't you make the motion?
Okay, motion to, to rescind my original motion. Okay, I'll amend my motion to move the New business, district COVID mitigation strategy action to, after delegations to be.
Do we have a second? Discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we've got minutes from August 30th and Tuesday, September 14th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 30th at 6 p.m. open session and Tuesday, September 14th, 6 p.m. open session.
One second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Then all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We're on to the approval of the financial report and bill list.
Okay, motion to approve voucher listing dated August 21st, 2021 through September 20th, 2021. Payroll check number 553806, amount of $313.49. Direct deposit number 900055106 through 900055194, the amount of $137,304.38. Direct deposit number 900055195 through 900055301, in the amount of $157,046.91. Wire transfer number 202100056 through 202100086, in the amount of $303,655.53 for a total payroll of $598,320.31. Accounts payable check number 54858 through 54898, in the amount of $317,412.25. Wire transfer number 202100054 through 202100055, the amount of $2,187.21. Wire transfer number 202100073 through 202100076, the amount of $2,810.82. Credit card transaction 82021 through 72021. $87,462.85. ACH direct deposit 21220022 through 21220024, the amount of $317.20 for total accounts payable of $410,190.33. Total disbursements of $1,008,510.64.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We are now to agenda item. Back to where we go. We are on to
Delegations.
what?
Delegations.
Okay. Right there. That one. Hey, okay. Christina, do you
Yeah.
want?
Okay.
You
Is that okay
want
if I
to?
sit? I just can't take my glasses, I can't.
Okay.
I can sit or I can sit here, I can come up front. I can talk kind of loud.
Talk about.
Okay, I'll try my best. Okay. All right, so thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak again tonight. In March of 2020, we were asked to use masks for 2 weeks to help flatten the curve. Here it is, almost a year and a half later, and we are still discussing masking our children in schools. Last school year, the rationale was we have to wait until the high-risk population was vaccinated. Those who hopefully wanted to get the vaccine have now gotten it. Yes, those under 12 have not yet been approved, but the risk of serious illness for that age group is extremely low. Looking at the data from the school website from Friday, which you know answered this, it says, I'm not quite sure why this is even on the agenda, but we can talk about that. Okay. After the last board meeting, I felt some of the community members' comments needed to be addressed. First of all, I can empathize with parents wanting to do what is best for their family. However, I still have gotten no answer as to why my child needs to wear a mask if their child is wearing one and it provides protection. If it doesn't provide protection, why are we wearing them at all? One mother had commented, well, I can't get my kid to wear a mask this year. I think if everyone was wearing one, that wouldn't be an issue. So she wants every child in the school to wear a mask so her child will wear one. Another speaker suggested if a class, okay, this kind of, I was, sorry, because Brian, we kind of talked about this. I also found it interesting that people that spoke of masks last time did not have an issue coming within 5 inches of a microphone that had not been wiped down between speakers. My daughter did virtual learning last year, not because of COVID, but because she couldn't wear a mask all day. For children that have anxiety, autism, sensory problems, or other special circumstances, it is extremely difficult to learn if you are worried about getting good air all day. Virtual learning was a disaster for many, including my kids, and they are entitled to a quality education just as anyone else. If there is no way to make a compromise, maybe having separate classes for kids with masks is appropriate. The school board represents the community as a whole. Last April, with the last school board election, we as a community voted out someone who opposed opening schools and has been a supporter of masks. It seems that there is only one school member left that is pushing this issue without considering the long-term mental and emotional consequences. I will not call you out by name, but please remember we will not forget you in 2023.
All right. I just want, this is, this is the Ron Russ Merton administration team plan, not the Phil Spindler plan. This is the Ron Russ plan. I'll put my name in.
Okay.
So.
But keep pushing for it.
No.
Let's just get back to keep the meeting. Nicole, you have?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're ready.
Aforementioned dorky spreadsheet. Okay, I just basically went on all the district websites and collected current case info. Because as a parent in the district, sometimes you hear, like, Oconomowoc was in the news this week, was so dramatic, cases on the rise. And I did the same thing with their district, and it was like 1% of students. I'm like, that is so, couldn't we just say, in the light of all this, 99% of kids are staying healthy? So I went on all the Arrowhead feeder schools and included the high school. Kind of broke it down. It's a little hard because when you go less than 5 cases, you're not going to get numbers. So I ran the numbers given 1, 2, 3. So there could be any combination here that would, change the percentages of cases. But basically, looking at all of it, everybody is under 1%, except for Arrowhead. They're at 1.2% of current cases. They have 26 cases out of 2,174 students. So I did all that and I felt pretty happy with myself because the total district at large infection rate was somewhere between 0.55% and 0.83% as a whole, for the whole district at large. But then I was like thinking about that and I'm like, this doesn't tell us a ton, besides not a lot of kids are getting very sick right now. And this doesn't even tell you kids that were really feeling sick, because I've talked to plenty of people who got tested because they were exposed, their kid tested positive, they were feeling fine. So this is not as like telling us anything about illness per se. But then I got to thinking, none of the matrices really let you go back. But I did save some of my emails from the superintendent at Arrowhead from last fall when masks were required at the high school. And it was nice because I had a number from October 2nd, and I believe the numbers I used for Arrowhead were from last week, but pretty similar, apples to apples, same time period for Arrowhead. I compared cases, and at that point, only 64% of students were in person. So I didn't know, I assumed that if like a kid was home and tested positive for COVID, they were still including them in the numbers, even if they were virtual. But I ran the numbers both ways. So 2020 required masks at Arrowhead. The percentage of COVID positive cases was anywhere ranging between 1.1% and 1.7%, depending on the demographic you included and the
the equation, compared to now when math are optional is 1.2. So we have barely fluctuated. I mean, not even, I mean, it's a hair of a percentage between required maths and optional math. So I thought that was an interesting data point to look at, because I think sometimes we get caught up in how we feel about maths and all of this, but this is really showing us that when I look at, you know, when my kid goes to school and he had to wear math last year, and he doesn't have to this year, and about the same number of kids are getting sick. So that's what I did, and that's that, and I have copies if anybody wants one.
I like to do that.
Okay. I didn't have anybody else on the sheet, I'm speaking delegation report. Anybody else in the audience here like to speak? I don't see.
I want to say, Ron, we all support you. And no one's anti-Ron. No, I'm just saying for everybody, we support you. And I appreciate that. We just, don't support the masking. I'm asking you more to not. And not go yes. Nothing against you.
You need to do what you do. I gotta do what I gotta do.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's gotta do what you gotta do. Respect it.
Okay, we're gonna go to the new business item.
I'd like to make a motion to reject the COVID mitigation strategy plan as presented.
To retract it,
Reject it.
reject it, okay, sorry. That is.
So there's a motion and a second to reject the mitigation plan in its entirety.
So
Questions, yes.
the reason, so as Ron stated, this was a Ron plan, not a Phil plan. The Phil part of it was saying that we should publicly say what we plan to do. Right, have all the plan, whatever the plan is. I guess I care, but whatever the plan is, we should have all plan and make it public so that parents know. And they can plan accordingly. That seemed pretty cool. So I think it is still the board's duty to just to explicitly say so that we can be done with this and not have it come up again when one side or the other comes back and, has more comments or complaints or whatever. Then we should just publicly say, this is what we are going to do, and that's, kind of the end of the issue. If that's rejecting the proposal, then that's cool, but then I think we should, I guess, formally say that, we are going to do nothing, right? Not require masks, not require vaccinations, which we didn't even talk about because we're not. Not require social distancing or not requiring people to, quarantine or whatever, right? We should stop all measures and have everything be parent choice, if that's what we want. Or we should have some subset of that, like we're gonna keep doing the cleaning stuff and offering outside eating at lunch or something, right? Like whatever the plan is, from the board's perspective, I think it would be fair both to our community and to the administration to say, this is what we're going to accept you doing or allow you to do.
Well, I'm a little confused by that comment because I think we made that clear in May, what we were doing. And this one came up after a new thing came. So we clearly said this is what we're sticking to in May. We even laid it out very detailed what we were doing.
And we do have.
It's on the website.
It's
on the website. We have a plan on the website. I understand it's not a plan that you.
Whether I agree with it or not, I just.
Yeah, but I think the important thing is we are asking parents to make decisions for their kids and their families. We are asking them to monitor their children because they know their children the best. Which is what we did before COVID. And I'm not saying that plan was always 100%. Did kids come to school and get sick? Absolutely, that's just life. And so we are maintaining that plan and I guess, putting that plan back into place after last year. And, I think parents, I speak for myself, I have a first grader and a third grader. I know when my kids are off, when they're just not there, I know. And so we keep them home or we monitor them. And so I trust parents to do the right thing. I know you mentioned earlier that parents are just going to send their kids sick. Again, I think we've got some really great parents. Is something going to slip by every once in a while? Sure. But I think we've got good parents, and I think the majority of the parents are going to do the right thing. And so I think we do have a plan. And we should just stick with that until the data changes. I would like to address, we had a couple of parents and teachers ask us what data are we looking at. And so I'd like to share personally what I look at. So I first of all look at the school level data that Ron has been sharing with us since the beginning of school. How many cases we have and what's going on. I also look at the updates that Ron is getting from the county health commissioner. Early on in the school year, board meeting on August 30th, and then again, I think in 14th, we had heard from parents that hospitals were being overwhelmed and filling up, and the county health commissioner was saying that wasn't the case. And so getting that information from the county health commissioner was helpful. I continue to look at the American Academy of Pediatrics. They do a weekly update. They continue to say the available data indicate that COVID-19 associated hospitalization deaths is uncommon in children. At this time, it appears that severe illness due to COVID-19 is uncommon in children. They continue to say that. Children's Hospital has been putting out a weekly update that talks about what they're seeing. So I've been looking at that, looking at their rooms occupied with COVID or RSV. They don't break it out, but then they do break it out by what they have as far as infections. I'm looking at the state of Wisconsin data for hospitalizations, and I've been taking screenshots since early August and monitoring that and tracking that. Again, we always want to talk about the 100 and some thousand kids that have gotten COVID. There's also been 100 and some thousand kids that have recovered from COVID. And so we don't do, as a country and as a society, we don't talk about those successes as much as we should. And so I look at that. The American Academy of Pediatrics in one of their points has like 1.4 million kids 18 and under in the state of Wisconsin. So if you do the math, less than 10% of the kids since the beginning of the pandemic have come down with COVID. So I look at ever hospitalized, I look at the ICU, I look at the vaccinations in Washington County, I take snapshots of that, and Arrowhead District. I also found a wonderful website called HHS Protect. If you Google that, it brings up a website that Federal Health and Human Services put together where they track hospital utilization rates in the state and in your county. And in Waukesha County, as I pulled it this morning, 60% of inpatient beds were occupied, 11% were occupied by COVID patients. So it's same, I pulled that information from Milwaukee County as well. So those are some of the things I look at in looking at what's happening, specifically in our school, in our community, and in our county as well. And so when I look at that, I also understand completely the idea of trying to keep kids in school. I think there's a lot of unintended consequences in the plan that was presented that has the opportunity, multiple opportunities to put, I hate to say it this way, but I will, put kids in COVID jail that maybe never had a symptom for multiple reasons. And so the unintended consequences, how many times does a child get put into, virtual learning over the course of a year because of the way the policy was? I would also just point out, I had a lot of heartburn with the statement that I think it was on page 1, and this is just me personally, but all mitigation measures within this document will last a minimum of 14 days, 14 calendar days. Minimum, I think, is a very important word to focus on. That doesn't mean it comes off in 14 days. So a mask could go on and it could never come off. So I had a lot of heartburn with that. I just share it for everybody because I know there were some teachers that asked us to be transparent and state what we're looking at. And I know some parents have asked that as well. So for me, that's the research I do once a week to update my various work documents.
Any other discussion?
So is what, are there any measures, Ron, that we as a school district take to mitigate COVID that is not part of the plan that's currently posted? Being what's on the website, not
It's on our
our
website.
document. Extra cleaning, changing ventilation.
We've been doing that. Keep doing that. If we do see just like a flu virus or something like that, if we do see something where we need to increase, I mean, we may be able to go into, again, COVID, we're gonna take this whether it be COVID or the flu season, for instance. If we see sickness happening in the classroom, we'll come in during a lunch period, during an extended period of time and disinfect. So there's some things that we do, but those are things that we've done all the time, just in kind of trying to keep sickness down.
Correct me if I'm wrong as well. How a classroom is set up for learning, pods or no pods, or whatever, does not need board approval. So from a standpoint of distancing in the classroom, the principals and you and the rest of the administrative team can make that decision to go to 3 feet or go to 6 feet at any time you want.
That's educational environment.
Correct. So I just point that out.
And we want to allow that.
Just,
So no, I think that's the point, is it is allowed, it's educational environment.
that's the educational environment. That would be something that we take and get a conversation with a couple school board or with Katie.
Well, to be
Yeah.
clear, teachers have control over
Teachers
their
have
own
control over
classrooms,
the
right?
classroom.
And how they're organized and how things really go.
Last year, we took control per guidelines and things like that, but this year, individual classroom teachers set up their classrooms the way they.
So I guess I don't know. They currently have teachers, teachers, admin, whatever, can do whatever they want. We as a board, I understand that it's a classroom environment, but do we want to put any restriction on like specific arrangements that were because of COVID, like the social distancing part of it? For standing in line, social distance, or any of that? If that's not specifically covered.
Running a school, isn't it? I mean, again, I think that falls
Well, but
into
I'm- but like,
Ron and Jay or back
Yeah.
up for school. I think that's normal school operations. I think what we did last May was we voted on masks, because that was a board level
Sure.
decision, well, mandated first in the beginning of the school year, but it stayed on and the board took that off. Again, I think a lot of that stuff is up to the administrative team in running the school.
So then we as a board would be okay if potentially the administration chose to do social distancing for whatever reason.
Jay, you had the lunchroom set up, it was only 4 at a table, right?
It's on them.
Yeah.
That's my question, right? Are we okay with that, or do we want to say, no, we should go back to,
Hey, we have
we can have all our friends
we
that
have
want
a room to
to
do those kind of things, if the administration wants to do that. I have no problem with that. I just want to emphasize. Parents know what's best for their children, and we'd be arrogant if we were telling parents that we know that.
I can respect that, but the other side of the coin is, I mean, to some extent, not with help, but with some extent, that's kind of the school's job too. Right, that the parents send kids to us to teach them things and do what's best for them in their education. And again, I'm saying not help, I'm just saying like,
But go with the sensitive material that is presented to our children. I want parents making that choice of whether they're opting
Sensitive
in
is
that.
subjective too.
And,
But that,
I think back to your original, before we got off on a tangent, I think back to your original statement, there's nothing for the board to vote on when it comes to a classroom and distancing or spacing in a hallway. That's up to Ron and the administration, it always has been. And so there's nothing for us to vote on or endorse. That's their responsibility or whatever they want to do.
So in terms of mitigation strategies, that is a strategy they could enact if they choose. I'm just trying to figure out like what are we allowing the administration, the district to do, and what are we saying, no, we don't want that. Just so that we're all clear, we don't have to go over it again.
I think everybody's clear.
I guess maybe
We have some,
You're all good? All right, cool.
good direction. We obviously, knew this possibly could happen, so we know, again, kind of going back to Andrew's point, there's normal school operations that you guys have entrusted us into. If in fact you feel that we are failing to run the school, then that comes through the supervision and evaluation model. Or call a special meeting and go about it that way too as well.
any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion's carried. We are back to the original. And we are on to,
With that though, do we need to make an additional motion with regards to supporting what is currently on our website? Or is that just, we've already voted on this, this has been created, this is what we're going by? So this does not keep getting revisited.
But I would say what's on that website is school operations all the way from managing the ins and outs of where exits, entrances, schedules, building supplies, things like that. So
I was speaking specifically to the COVID protocols that are on our website.
and the protocols.
I would say it wouldn't hurt for us to reaffirm that as a board if that's.
That this is what we're supporting, so we're not doing this.
I'll make the motion that the board officially adopt what is currently on our website for the COVID protocols. For COVID mitigation protocols.
okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
So just a nitpicky thing.
Yeah.
There's a couple places in here where it says 14 days and there's a couple that say 10 days. I believe with our virtual motion and approval 2 weeks ago, we settled on 10 days.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think the only,
We can scrub it for that, yeah, because it should.
Amend the, so I'll amend my motion to indicate that all of the durations be 10 days. From morning.
We've already made that motion. Okay. That's fine.
Well, does this fit the agenda?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's still the COVID.
Certainly. Certainly.
I just don't wanna.
Certainly does. Yeah, well, we can, the agenda.
So we have a motion, second, discussion is over. You want to discuss?
I just want to make sure, as a board, we're good now, we don't have to come back next month and talk about this every time. I'm asking, so we don't have to pop up again and again. We are.
I haven't wanted to talk about this before.
I want to try
To be fair, I just wanted to make sure that we were being clear to our community, because there was a lot of people asking questions from both sides, and so that's why I said we should have the plan. And that was all I wanted.
Okay. Discussion over? All in favor, then say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion is carried. Okay, we're on to your remarks. Very nice information. So, motion to accept that.
We also have, we also have one generation, gift for related family as well. So, yeah, we got 25,000 plus 1,000 to the principal, as well as $800 to the thank you to the Lakes. So,
Okay. Motion to accept the donations.
I like the motion to accept the donations as presented.
The second. We have motion second, discussion. All in favor, then say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We have personnel action. Resignation.
one that came in today. Holly Zimmerman has resigned her position as special educator in our school district. I will continue to work with Pewaukee as we move through this transition period as well. But again, we're disappointed, obviously, that Holly's leaving, particularly that it's September 26th, 27th. But we wish Holly the best of luck in her new position in Pewaukee. So just looking for a motion to accept the resignation of Holly Zimmerman as presented.
Question? If I could ask a question.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the resignation of Alex Zimmerman.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Discussion.
In your email update to us.
Be careful where you go.
Question redacted, all right. Yeah, personnel issues are discussed.
Understood. I got it.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Can't answer questions. Understood. That's fair. No, that's fair. I guess, Andrew, if you have some, if you're curious about something, please see me after.
All in favor of that, accepting the resignation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we're on to information. We have the update from Ron. Do you have any more to add?
No, I think we've talked about that. You've heard about the update from how things are going from our parents and our community, and continue to keep everybody as much as I can.
Okay, then item 2 in information is seclusion and restraint report. Very good.
Yep, so we're just housekeeping thing, we're required to present that to the board, please turn it to Becca and Jay for creating that document for the board. And it's just checking a box that we're required to, we'll be submitting that to the DPI as well.
Okay, then on to committee reports. We have student achievement committee. And
Sure. Maria, did you want to summarize that for us?
The hour was the summary.
Well, I mean, Dean even joined us, so I feel like he even knows. So, you know, the last couple months, we've been talking about aligning our curriculum alignments to the updates of the state standards. So that's done, and we'll be changing some of the website to being transparent to the community about what we're reviewing and when. And we talked about assessment, our favorite, not favorite thing, and where we're headed with that probably this year, a focus on our multi-level system of support. And the question about related to the ESSER funds, knowing we will have an ESSER requirement to use a portion of that for learning loss for sure, so that we're spending those funds well on things that would be not long-term needs, but can fill some short-term support for that kind of work. And then we began to share our district improvement plan for this school year. And part of that plan is to come up with a plan and a process for improvement moving forward as well. So
And all that information is found in the board packet.
under the Student Achievement Committee. Very
Thank you, Maria.
welcome.
anything to add from committee members? Okay, then we're on to future meetings and agenda items.
Next month, I will be bringing forward a draft 22-23 student calendar for the board to consider, and at the same time, we'll do student as well as present a staff calendar. And as you saw on the Student Achievement Committee. We'll be continuing to take a look at how our professional development days go forward. We are working with Arrowhead and the other feeder systems too, to try to maximize not only transportation, but ultimately try to line up as best as possible if we can, but also the last several years, we've been able to do what we need to do as an organization ourselves too as well.
So by the budget numbers and.
Oh, yeah, we've got that too, little small detail. April, yep. So we've got our budget to be finalized. So we've got 2 more variables coming up October 1st and the 15th.
Okay, the board member have something they'd like on? Okay. November, and, December meeting or, you know, I don't know. So I always like this part.
Second.
The motion is second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All the same time, meeting is adjourned.